Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 here on evening of December 16th, and I hereby call this meeting of the Hall Township Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Williams.
Present.
Spalding.
Here.
Bowl.
Here.
Stanley.
Here.
Lolio.
Here.
Holman.
Here.
Great. Thank you, sir. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item up is approval for agenda.
Everybody knows the big fat guy with the beard and the lines here. Yeah, I know my name, but I don't.
Does anyone have any suggested edits or alterations or changes to tonight's agenda? May we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, sir. Motion from Mr. Bowl,
I'll support.
second from Mr. Stanley. Sorry about that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Next up is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Presume everyone's had a moment to read these over. Look accurate to me. I've missed typos before.
I didn't see, I'll move approval.
Thank you, sir.
Support Bowl.
Motion from Mr. Spalding, was that you, Tim?
Yes.
Second from Mr. Bowl. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion has passed. Okay. Agenda item number 6, our opening call to the public. All are welcome to speak. We do ask you to say your name and address. Keep your comments civil, step up to the microphone so you are recorded, and try to keep it between 2 and 3 minutes, so we've got several hours worth of people here.
You might want to put the mic closer to your lips.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Coming over on the mic.
On? It was off. How does this thing work?
Should we just step up to the mic,
Yes, sir.
form a line, whatever?
The line works. Queue up peacefully.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Smith. I live at 3774 Mason Road in Howell. So I'll just get right to it. So where have we been and what have we learned? First of all, thank you for the draft ordinance for the data center. It's a great start. My idea is to take it a little bit further. So first, we've learned that our zoning ordinance needs a clear and accurate definition of a data processor, one that properly defines what a data center facility is and distinguishes it from other forms of data processing or related issues. We've also learned that the township should not rezone property in a manner that conflicts with the master plan or undermines the broader interests of the community, particularly when the community itself has spoken clearly and consistently against it. That brings us to the question of where do we go from here? I understand that a municipality cannot adopt an ordinance that explicitly excludes or bans a specific industry or a business by name. However, I do recommend that the township adopt a clear and comprehensive definition of a data center facility or a similar term that outlines the unique operational characteristics of this type of use, and then stops right there. Before finalizing that definition, I strongly urge the township to consider drafting a separate township-wide ordinance that is not anti-data center, but rather establishes reasonable operational standards and restricts that apply uniformly to any industry operating within Howell Township. An ordinance like this would address the impacts associated with large-scale, high-density, density facilities, impacts such as excessive mechanical noise, even at low grade, long-term environmental deterrents, extraordinary electrical demand, and significant strain on municipal water and wastewater systems. If we identify and regulate key components or core functions of facilities that electronically receive, store, process, and transmit information without regard to the industry name, and apply those standards consistently across all the property in Howell Township, that would result in a framework that naturally discourages compatible uses without singling out one industry. Through my research, I've identified several operational areas commonly associated with a data center facility that bear attention to this ordinance. First one is the backup or power and cooling systems. And then if you look at the attachment, it has what a typical data center would use. They like to use vacuum enclosed high-speed flywheels that have the capability to cool down the processor that is there. So they operate normally at a 36,000 RPM. My suggestion is you do a township-wide ordinance that says you cannot have a flywheel that exceeds 19,000 RPMs. And then you also never have a carbon fiber material for ball bearings or components, because this tends to have that, what everybody is recognizing as a low frequency vibration in the area. Water usage, I would require in this ordinance a closed loop system. If you can't require a closed loop system, then you could have a restriction on the amount of gallons used in one day. Let's say 500,000 gallons. This is just an example. Sort of like a governor, you use more of it, you don't get any more. Same theory as when you had a mini bike and your dad put the governor on the throttle, that didn't go so fast. Well, we all figured out how to overturn that, but still it's the same theory. Electrical demand, cap the amount of power that any single property could have. And again, back to my grid. If you look at any other industry that would want to go in, everybody uses about 1 megawatt or no more. A data center uses 75 megawatts. So I would come up with a restriction to, shoot, I thought I had it. I think I put 2 megawatts, there it is, 2 megawatts of electrical consumption. Last one is fiber optic infrastructure. They gotta have a way to kick out and receive all of that information that's coming in. So if you look back at my grid again, the last page, typical hyperscale data center uses 10 to 100. I recommend that you put in there in the ordinance that nobody can have any more than 9 fiber cables contained at a terabit at the public road. And again, these are impact, you put them in the ordinance, and if you did it correctly, hopefully it would deter this type of business. So I'm not here to claim to be an expert in drafting or implementing these regulations. I'm here to offer ideas and perspectives, because we're at a critical fork in the road. If we fail to act thoughtfully and deliberately, our community can be changed permanently, and not for the better, in my opinion. Over the past 3 months, one fact has become unmistakably clear: a strong majority of Howell Township residents, along with the neighboring communities, do not want a data center facility located anywhere within our township. Residents are not suggesting different locations such as past Fisher Road north of Allen Road, west of Owasso, or south of Mason, they're saying clearly and emotionally, they don't want this facility here at all. So now is the time to get to work. We only have 5 months left to adopt thoughtful, lawful, and community-centered regulations that protect our neighborhood and preserve the character of Powell Township for the better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, well, if we have no other takers for the microphone, we'll move on to our next item.
Sorry, I was gonna wait till the end, but if this is the end, I'm here.
There's one more call to the public. There's one more call to the public.
Good evening, board. My name is Chuck Smith. I live at 5136 Fleming Road. Just in case you folks didn't know where that was, I have, pass that on. I've told everybody I live within 2,500 feet of the Green Builder property. I've got stuff on both sides of that, did some research on that, and I'm definitely within 2,500 feet as the crow flies. That's direction. So anyhow, I'm gonna try to make this fast because my speech is still sitting on my desk at work. So the bottom line here is that if we let this happen, as you're probably all aware, there's already 16 other data centers being proposed right now around Michigan. Supposedly we're the biggest at this point. And because we're the biggest, this needs to stop. Needs to stop here. This is farmland we're talking about, folks. This isn't some place down in Detroit. This isn't a super fund. This isn't some kind of brownfield site. This is 1,000 acres of prime farmland. Have we all grasped this? I wanted you guys to see that because that picture I sent around shows my little tiny house and where it's at. And the whole rest of that is that property. That will be filled with an environmental disaster waiting to happen. Between all of those generators they want to put in there, if they go with the little mini nuclear reactors. Are you kidding me? We called those dirty bombs back when I was taught to hide under my desk in high school, okay? This is not right. This is bad. I've already got, and I keep getting phone calls from people who want to talk to me, believe it or not. Today, I had to turn down an interview with Channel 7 News because I've got to work, okay? I didn't sleep last night. I did a complete research study on all of the power lines that are running down here, where they're headed, where they're going. I looked at everything. I did more research in one night than I did all my whole college career, trying to get this stuff done and figured out. And it is not good, ladies and gentlemen. It is not good, okay? I wrote every single one of the senators and the representatives that has anything to do with any township in our area that are all fighting this stuff right now in their own. They have all of my thoughts, which I was gonna bring and read tonight, but I left it there. So, God, all I can say is please realize you will change this county forever. You will change this township forever. It's rural. We were all here because it was rural. I moved here 20 years ago because it was rural. My retirement starts at the end of this month. And you're gonna let them tear that place up for the next 10 years because it's 1.8 months per. And they're gonna hold it up. They're gonna say, okay, we're gonna build this, we're gonna build this. Is it still good? Yeah, okay, the bubble hasn't popped yet. Okay, we're gonna build this one. Okay, and every one of those is gonna involve heavy equipment that's gonna be going from one end of that 1,000 acres to the other, stirring up dirt, dust, noise pollution. I'm gonna be hearing beep, 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 beep for the next 10 years as those things go back and forth. Don't let them pour asphalt all over that property. Don't let them pour concrete all over that property. God knows what's gonna run off and where it's gonna go and what's in it. Okay, have you folks seen anything that says that there's going to be retention ponds I didn't see it. Maybe I didn't recognize it on the plan, but I didn't see any retention ponds. So where's it gonna go? All that, oh my God, that is 1.5 square miles of stuff that's gonna come down with no place to go. 1,000 acres of farmland will suck it right up and grow all kinds of crops. And I'm already working with the state of Michigan's agricultural group, trying to find out what we can do to make that better. I've worked with their research people, but I told them this is not research. This is you figuring out all your stuff. They just got $3.1 million plus another $3.8 million to do all the research on crops, okay? So, crops don't do you any good if all your farmland is destroyed with data centers. I put together a business plan. I'm still working on it, but I have looked at all kinds of different, for crying out loud, I am in contact with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I'm in contact with all, yeah, we got elk in Michigan, folks, and they'll screw that up too if you let them, okay? I'm the wall. I'm gonna be the wall you run up against for the next 10 years. Every time somebody says something, I will not go silently into the night, and I will not leave you people alone if you decide to do this crap. For crying out loud, I'm 69 years old. All my neighbors out there, we've all talked, this is the most ridiculous thing that could be. Don't let this happen. Please, don't let this happen.
Alan Lemine, 5182 Owasso Road. That was a heartfelt testimony. This is kind of nice, be careful because I may be up here for 25 minutes. But I'd like to start at the very beginning. I think this ordinance's development is pretty premature. And I think it's pretty rotten that the state of Michigan went ahead and laid this in your laps. All right, I really, truly do. I've got to say that I was really impressed. A bipartisan bill passed. When was the last time we had a bipartisan bill passed in this state? Does anybody know? Yeah, any of you folks know?
What's
So,
the bill?
The bipartisan bill, the bill on all these sales tax abatements and property use tax abatements, which is billions of dollars to the state. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. What authority does the state of Michigan have to proclaim data centers for all on the people? What authority? None exist. That's a rhetorical question. The states had the 10th Amendment against the federal government. This township was established in 1836 with people who had liberties. And these liberties are being taken away from all of us in this room. And it's a travesty that the people that we pay our taxes to are taking our tax dollars and turning it against we, the people of this state. So that's the first thing I've got to say. I would go back to the state and I say, you have no authority. I'm sure somewhere in the charter that there's a 10th Amendment type clause, because I guarantee it, all of our forefathers had that individual liberty and freedoms, and they wanted to make sure that they were preserved. Okay? So the next thing is, and again, for the state to go ahead and tell you to blindly go ahead and draft ordinances is disrespectful. We know nothing about these things other than what they've done to folks, and then the other issue is that until this is settled by a popular vote, I feel that by the state of Michigan, in the general election, I think that you guys have foundation to stand on and say, no, we're not doing this until this is settled. Why should we be wasting our time until we know what direction is gonna happen here? Number one, and number two, at the very least, hold a special election in the township and use that as your shield. I don't think that'd be a tough shield to yield, all right? And, I really think, you know, and lastly, until a township vote, a special election takes place, you've got every right to say, we're done. We have a special election. I don't know how this system works. You guys know that. I don't know if you have them next month, in 3 months, in 10 months, whatever. We're not doing anything. And then proceed. And finally, and it's, you know, I hope this isn't a foregone conclusion. I hope this isn't just a bunch of a big, you know, con game that the state of Michigan is playing with the citizens. But we do have our liberties. We must make it to a popular vote, and then let's settle the issue after that, okay? But this is putting the cart before the horse. Thank you.
Likewise.
Hi, Lauren Prebenda, 930 Gully Road. I'll keep this really short because I know the conversation tonight is specifically around developing a data center ordinance, and we no longer have an active developer application. So I just wanted to urge you as you begin to take a look at an ordinance and making revisions, not only that you take this very seriously, as I know you all will, but also that you kind of think more expanded about what we can learn generally from this situation and maybe how we can update other sections of our ordinances to better protect and also ensure the community feels represented and informed. I did send this via email, but I'm not sure if it made it to you all or not. First, I think Article 8, the industrial district, I think that hyperscale AI data centers need to be placed in industrial due to their footprint, their impact, and their scale on public utility consumption. This would help protect them from impacting residential and agricultural areas. Next, I think obviously it's concerning that the developer came in here trying to utilize the term data processing in the research and technology district in Article 5 in order to make their way in here. I don't think hyperscale and AI data centers belong there, particularly like that area where the RT district is abutting a lot of like hundreds of residential homes and agricultural land, which could have a really immense adverse impact on a lot of residents. So I think we also need to update the RT language in Article 5 as well and make sure that there's no way for future developers to come in claiming that data processing equals massive industrial scale data center. A couple other items to take a look at, I think, are ordinances 181 and 231, which are the water use and rate ordinance and utility ordinances. Specifically, that includes some information on how we can place regulations on specific customers regarding their water usage. And so I think taking a look at that and seeing if and how we can add some data center specific regulations to those ordinances would be really helpful. Also section 22.05, public meeting and minutes. I mentioned this at the township board meeting, but just to mention again, I think one of the saddest consequences of this, I think, is that people they felt like this was under a cloak of secrecy, and I think the only notifying residents within 300 feet ahead of time is part of that, which is what's in that section 22.05. So I think if we could think strategically about how we could update that, particularly for large scale development that has the ability to impact not just the surrounding area, but like for this in particular, all MHOG users, that should also be taken a look at during your work as well. And then lastly, I saw that Cohocton recently passed an NDA policy prohibiting elected and appointed township staff members from signing NDAs. I think this would do a great deal to just instill trust between the public and, you know, our elected and appointed officials. So I think if we're thinking broadly about how we can ensure what happened a few months ago, it doesn't ever happen in that same way again, I think it would be worth taking a look at that as well. Thank you.
Nice, thank you.
Hello, my name is John Ryan. I live at 3457 Byron Road. Only thing to bring up and piggybacking off the first speaker was for the water usage, for the particular hyperscale data center that is being proposed, even if they're going to use 100% of the it's Moab, the water from Moab, I can truly see that they're going to need some sort of backup in case if something does go wrong. So my concern is that in the packet that was given to the township board that was from Tester Tech that was dated on December 3rd, in the report they said the surrounding properties for the wells are all in the sand and gravel level of at grade to about 180 feet. If the hyperscale data center can be labeled as where it needs to go past the clay cap and into the sandstone to get those large quantities of water that are needed to sustain the cooling if they decide to not go with the closed loop system. The water recovery, it's not, from how I've interpreted it, I'm not an engineer, it's not going to be as bad, but still would prefer to see a deep well so local homes are not affected by any sort of million-gallon pumping from groundwater. Thank you.
Just outline, did you pass these around? I got one for everybody, there's probably an extra one. Good evening, my name is Todd Kozakevich. We live at 6205 Raddick Road. We're actually in Cohocton Township, quarter mile from Howell Township border, and 1 3/4 miles from the paused proposed data center site. We are very we've been residents for a very long time. We are a part of this community. And these are just very general things from my humble research that I could do. They're not very in-depth, but these are just some general concerns. You've heard them 1,000 times, but you need to hear them 1,000 more. Water. The concerns about water are endless. No amount of water above or below ground to be polluted is acceptable. No pollution is acceptable whatsoever. Not one resident having their well water supply affected is acceptable. So I think those should be, whatever it takes to address those concerns to the deepest part have to be done. And I think the studies should be done by companies or agencies selected by the local government concerning water. So the local government's in control of studies that are done. They should not be in control of the developer or anybody that they hire. On my thing that I passed around, consider limits to acreage of a development.
And bottom line, I'm anti-data center. I'd like to see them go away, but if they have to be, I think the, development should be no more than maybe 100 acres. Consider the, impervious surfaces of the data center, which is roofs, parking lots, asphalt, the surfaces of a lot that the water can't get, through to the ground. That really has to be looked at when, drafting an ordinance also. Consider woodland disturbances, if they wanna build somewhere where there's woods, what's an acceptable amount of woods to be cut down, which shouldn't be much. Consider distances to rivers and lakes. A big one, when considering the sound levels, decibels are not the whole problem. Just cause they can go out there and say, well, so far away from the site, the decibels will only be a certain amount. I don't think it's any surprise that the hum and the vibration that are reported from these types of facilities are a huge problem. And it's often overlooked, and the health and the quality of life of humans and animals in a very large area would likely be affected by the hum and vibration from these facilities that aren't normally addressed. On-site power generation, this is something that I stumbled upon in my researching. If they wanted to, if any data center wanted to provide their own power on-site instead of using grid power or whatever, which I guess is becoming a thing, those power stations should be looked at as a separate, a whole separate, thing, not just tacked on to the permit for the data center itself. That needs to be a whole other consideration. And then the only last thing I say is please communicate with the community. There's a lot of passionate people out there, and they're learning with you. Back and forth communication would be a great thing. Through Facebook pages and everything, there's plenty of ways to get a hold of the community and get some input if you need it. Again, I'd like to see the whole data center thing go away. I don't think there's a whole lot here to be said for AI data centers, but otherwise, thank you and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cecilia DeGill, and I live at 999 East Barron Road, which is down the road. And in reviewing a lot of information about these data centers, I don't know that it addressed federally protected species. And specifically in Livingston County, we have several federally protected species. And I don't know the location of these species, but according to, this is a list compiled by the Center for Biological Diversity Network. The first one is the eastern Mississauga rattlesnake. It's a threatened species. The eastern prairie fringed orchid. It's a perennial, and it's threatened critically. The Indiana bat, it's endangered. Mitchell's satyr butterfly, it's endangered. The monarch butterfly, it's a candidate for being endangered. The northern long-eared bat, it's threatened. The power sheep skipperling, that's endangered. The snuffbox mussel, that also is endangered. And the tricolored bat, that's proposed to be endangered. So I would like to see some sort of wording in the ordinance that covers these federally protected species, so that they will remain federally protected and alive in our lifetimes and for future. Thank you.
Don't make me have to bring one of those massive sockets in here just so you can see it.
Hi, my name is Debbie Manisto. I'm at 23302 Lake. I don't have a lot of scientific data, but I think what was the biggest thing for me is when I read that Livingston County is the biggest data center that they want to propose. So if we're at 1,000 acres, so why can you have something that is at 25 acres? So what is the need of such a massive amount of property? So I'm just hoping, and I'm sure that you are, is doing the research, because I would really like to know what is the difference of putting a data center on a 25-acre parcel versus a 1,000-acre parcel.
Okay, well, thank you all for your input. It is appreciated, sincerely. Our next item up, number 7, the Zoning Board of Appeals report. We had no meeting last month, hence I have no report. Going up to our Township Board report. We have a copy of the draft minutes in our packet. Tim, anything of concern or outstanding interest?
So we actually had 2 meetings since our last planning commission meeting, the 20th and the 8th. The moratorium was passed on the 20th. Of note on that, though, in case you didn't know, that didn't cover the zoning application. It was just the application for the site plan. We also passed the renewable energy ordinance, was passed on also. And on the 8th, the application for the zoning and the text amendment was withdrawn, and we basically had a big call to the public.
That was much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. It's overdue.
Thank you, sir. Our next item up is the ordinance violation report. I've looked it over. Anything noteworthy or of concern there, Jonathan? Any questions pertaining to? Okay, our next item, scheduled public hearings. We have none scheduled for this meeting. Okay, our next item has 4 subcategories. Our first is the draft of the Planning Commission annual report. How good of a job do we do this year?
It's a long list.
It is, it's a pretty lengthy list. Yeah, we got a full calendar too.
Jonathan, do you need a motion on this, or is this just informational?
The point of it is so that you report back to the boards, to understand the work you've been doing, if there's any shortfalls or stuff that you want the board to address, this is a good opportunity to do that. So one of the things at the end is also important, which is the priorities moving forward. So if you need something, if you need more money in your education budget for classes, that's something to put in there. Obviously, you can, add items to that as you see fit. I did mention something about the fees in there, and you don't have to do anything. I mean, the fees we collect are just to pay for the services that are rendered, and you're really just looking to become whole, at the end of the year. That's it. We just noticed that we had 3 items there that didn't pull their own weight. They cost the township more than we were charging on the application. So you don't have to change or request to change. The board is the one who changes it, but you don't have to request a change, you can if you want. I just-
Is the cost of township column, is that an average?
No, that is for, we had one of each of those on there.
Oh,
You can
there's
see
just
how
one
much
of
we
each,
charge
okay.
And how much it costs them.
So you're saying there was one temporary use, one special use, and one amendment to a site plan? Just one, and these were the costs?
Yes.
I am a little bit concerned that we're not covering our costs, and essentially people of the township are subsidizing people's requests. I don't know if there's enough data here to warrant any action. The special use one, why was that so much more than the $750 fee that was charged? How did it get up to $22.17? What, do you remember what that was?
So that was the Luke Bryan concert. What was it that got to that number? I didn't look into that. Marty was pulling the information and putting it on a spreadsheet, so.
Okay. Especially in light of the Luke Bryan concert, I would, something like that, I think we should absolutely cover our costs. So, I'm sure there was a little bit of money that came into that concert, and it looks like we subsidized $1,500 of it. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to discuss it. But that's quite a ways off. That's quite off.
I think the question is, how does this compare to prior years? Because, you know, we got that one off with the Luke Bryan concert, whether he comes back next year. I don't know if we can put an amendment in there for, you know, special use based on scale of project or request. Because it's one thing to want to put up a tent on a corner for to sell fireworks during the summer, during late June, early July, versus a giant concert.
I hear you. I don't have an answer. I know in the past it's been tight before. I don't think we've ever really spent money. And again, that's the goal. Is that when people apply, they're paying their own way. It's not supposed to cost the township anything, but it's also not supposed to generate revenue.
Oh, yeah, right.
So you know, if somebody paid money to come before you, and if the review fees and all that stuff isn't, if there's money left over, essentially the township keeps it, but then it pays for other stuff. So this is one of those things where I'm sure it'll come out in the wash. But I just wanted to make you aware of it in case you wanted to make a recommendation.
Jonathan, is there, so before we move past this, and if this is just related to the concert, can somebody take a look at how it got to be this, what it was that kicked this price up?
Sure.
I mean, because they might come back again, and better for us to do our homework now than to say, hey, remember when?
I think we need to figure out why it's high
Yeah.
and then address it there.
Either
But,
we're not,
I agree totally that we shouldn't be subsidizing, or the
Yeah.
residents shouldn't be subsidizing.
and some developers do things through an escrow fund, right?
So it depends. Like the fee schedule calls out certain things. So we have somebody who's on our agenda tonight. They paid $1,400 to come before you, and they also set up an escrow account so that when Brady's office does the review, they pay for it out of their escrow. So again, that's where, when you look at the whole picture, I've never seen us go red in the planning commission side. So.
Okay. What would be the next step then here? Do you guys think we should have Jonathan give us a little bit more information on these to look at it? Because we would just be making a recommendation to the township board to change anything. So, it's gonna be hard to come right to the penny some of the costs on some of these things. But getting, within 5 or 10%, I think is probably feasible. I don't think it's wise to be passing money back and forth all the time, but we need to make sure that our fees are as close as possible. So we're not eating some of it or surprising applicant with additional costs.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. The special use fee is currently $750, and the average cost of processing a special use fee prior to Luke Bryan's concert is $700-800, then that's appropriate.
Yeah.
But I can't see justifying boosting that to $2,200 due to one applicant. And that's why I think we need a more historical view to see how close we came in the past.
Jonathan, since you're in charge of the zoning, is there a way you can put some clause in there saying if it exceeds this amount, that has to be covered also?
In certain cases, it's already covered. In instances like this, it's not. So, I mean, possibly that's the fix.
That's not a bad idea.
Maybe like a separate clause, just on the rare occasion that it does happen, so. And just to clarify, what we're looking at is what your planning commission has been doing for the last year. It's online, you can look at it, but it talks about a lot of the site plans and the zoning reviews that we've done, so.
Other than that, I thought everything was good in here. Thanks for doing it.
Jonathan, if I could ask, I know last year one of our requests was that our ordinances be updated. Do we know where that is now?
So, a couple things that are gonna be on the board, packet in the next month is the fee schedule and update. That's what I was hoping to have something from you if there was anything. And then we did receive, information from Brady's office, regarding redoing it. It's just between the timing of the last two board meetings, it didn't work out, so that will also be in January.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have anything further on our annual report? Do we need a motion on this?
I don't think you needed a motion, correct, Jonathan? You just wanted
No.
any recommendations?
If you don't have any real changes, we'll put it in the packet for the board to see.
Unless somebody has some additions they want to add to it? No?
I don't really think I have enough information to make a decision one way or the other. I'm looking at total of one entry per type. I mean, they're all a little bit over except for Luke Bryan, but then you also have to consider that event brought money into our township as well.
But this is only what the township expended, right? So if we had to pay Brady's office to review it, they only paid $750. If we had to pay more for that review or whatever it was that money we put out, any money that they bring into the township doesn't come to us as
No.
a township.
Not directly. Okay, our next item is the county planning fall summary. I think we stacked up pretty good against these other townships. First item on the second page is where we recommend to deny adding data processing as a definition of the zoning ordinance.
Yep.
Yeah, this is essentially just an FYI document. Who published this, Jonathan? Does this come from the county?
That's county planning, as is the next one.
Yeah, the County Department of Planning. Yeah, they have the draft master plan here. That's our next item up, isn't it? Yeah, the county master plan.
Yep.
Where they are, oh, excuse me,
I did have some comments on that one, Mr. Chair.
this one here?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
On the second page, at the key findings, I'd just like to point out that the first sentence reads, "Public input revealed strong support for farmland and open space protection, a priority further reinforced by the Livingston County, Michigan 2025 Sustainable Agricultural and Food Systems and Rural Environment Plan." And just because sometimes it gets a little confusing, this is a county master plan, so the township has their own, and ours isn't currently under review. This is just the counties. So you can go on their website, and I think they're open for public comments right now. I'd encourage you to do that if you have some concerns with it.
Through
Yeah, and it's
January
posted on there.
26th.
The whole thing's posted on there too.
It's through January 26th?
I
Is
think
that what it is?
yeah. Yeah, January 26th.
Well, that's the end of the review period, and then there's a public hearing that'll be scheduled TBD. So probably February, I would guess.
No, thanks for putting this in the packet. I know this is a quarterly thing. I would like to see it. I see it, but I think it should be in the packet. If you guys would agree, I think it's good
It does,
information.
yeah.
Well,
on-
absolutely,
on
not
what the
there.
neighboring communities are doing, which I think is helpful.
There is an email list. Are you on that list?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
that's how I get it. But just to make it part of our packet, I think that's a good thing.
The next up is a resignation of our beloved Mr. Mike Newstead. Lost our secretary.
Do we need to act on, do we need to accept that, or
The board accepts it.
accept, okay.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make a public comment thanking Mike for his
Yeah.
participation here. He put a lot of work in, it,
Absolutely,
a lot
great
of
job
thought,
for us.
yeah. Sorry to see him go. I don't know.
His letter of resignation is in the packet, but.
In your packet?
It's online. If you go online to the planning, you'll
Yeah,
see it.
it's all public
If
info.
you're, yeah.
Okay, next up are business items. First item is old business, which we have on scheduled. Moving on to new business. We have our preliminary site plan for Dakota Heslop, for a parcel on West Grand River Avenue. We have the applicant.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I've done business with the family in the past, so, and I probably will in the future again, so I feel I should rescind from this one.
Yeah, recuse yourself, that's
Okay, recuse.
absolutely applicable. Thank you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name's Pat Keown with Ace Civil Engineering, and this is Dakota Hadlock, who's the owner of the property. We're here tonight, Dakota is currently owns a property there that has two existing buildings on the site, and has an operation there with the Justice Fence Company and his own personal trucking company. And we're trying to make some improvements to the site. It is an existing facility with two buildings, a relatively flat site. There really isn't a good stormwater outlet for it. So we're trying to make some improvements there best we can to meet everything in the ordinance for the outside storage. As a result, what we've done is currently there's no detention or retention on site. So we've designed a retention pond, which is allowable in the new Livingston County drain ordinance, kind of as a last resort. So we've done that. We're proposing some screening fence along Grand River and on the, I guess it would be the east side by the airport there to kind of provide screening for the proposed outside storage area. We're doing some gravel cleanup in the parking there
we're proposing some, asphalt or concrete paving for the normal usage for the employees. And, what else we doing there? I guess, that's pretty much most of the improvements. We have a letter there with some issues in it, from your planner. And some of those we did not address, just because the way it's cited, it's, our hands are kind of tied in a number of items here. We'd like to discuss these, maybe one at a time with you to see if
Certainly.
you can understand what we're up against here. I'm gonna just jump right to the last page of the planner's letter there. And item number 1, they're saying the applicant should provide more information on what will be stored on site. I think we had a couple of general notes on the site. It was basically fence materials. And Dakota should probably enlighten you a little bit more on that, but I think it's basically posts and metal raw materials and screening type stuff that's kind of stacked in piles. And the fence company kind of puts that together and hauls it off to different sites to install it. And on top of that, Dakota has his daily operation for his trucking that's going to be proposed on the west side of the site now. So we're doing a little bit of shifting around of how the operation is currently happening. The Justice Fence Company will kind of occupy the east side of the site, and the trucking company will occupy the west side of the site. So we can clear that up a little bit if you want a little more detail on it. I'm going to jump to item number 2. They want approval from the Livingston County Road Commission for existing access points. We're in contact with the Road Commission. At one point, we did talk about maybe reconfiguring those approaches. We're kind of locked into where we are because of the other driveways that are out there. We've got to maintain certain distances from the driveways. So we've decided just to leave those in place, and the Road Commission is agreeable that, they're in, they're usable, and as long as we don't touch them, we're okay. So that's kind of what we're proposing there. We do have on our site plan, we are showing a couple of semi-trucks parked in the rear yard setback, and that's an easy fix. We can just remove that from the site plan when we're done there accordingly. Part of your ordinance says that for outside storage, the driveways and parking areas will be asphalt or concrete. I guess it's a little open for interpretation as far as we're concerned. Is what does that mean? The whole thing has to be paved, or or just the parking areas themselves? I think what I kind of alluded to earlier is a kind of as a compromise, we're proposing a paved entrance to the site, and we're proposing all the employee parking spots to be paved. But then the outside storage areas would remain to be gravel. And I think that's pretty consistent with, there's a big trucking facility right across the road, and I think that's all gravel parking there. I think Ditch Witch is right by there. They might be paved, but they do have a lot of outside storage. So I think what we're asking for there is kind of fits in with the airport and the other facilities that are there. And we'd ask for a little bit of leniency on paving the whole site. What happens is, also, the more we pave the site, the more runoff we get, the bigger the pond gets, and we start trying to put all this stuff on site to make this existing site meet all these new standards, and we basically run out of room to have anything usable left to do on the site. So we hope that you can understand where we're coming from and work with us on that. Number 5, I think your ordinance asks for parking islands on the end of the parking bays. We did propose those just because it is an industrial type facility, and generally, those islands, they just almost become a nuisance in this type of application. And I mentioned earlier that the site is flat, so we're fighting with trying to put curbs in and carry grades on anything we put in there. So we would ask for leniency on that. Number 6, the applicant shall provide a landscape plan that meets the standards of Article 28. You do have a pretty good, a pretty strong landscape ordinance, and if we go follow all that criteria, we end up with planning a bunch of landscaping around this industrial site that's not real practical. As a compromise, we're proposing to screen the site using fencing, and then everything kind of behind it is, there's really no reason to put a bunch of landscaping in an industrial type storage area. So we would ask for a mercy on that
Number 7, applicant shall specify how many feet perimeter of the retention pond is. I think on sheet 3 it already states that. It might just be maybe it was not seen there, but I think the reason for that, I think within your ordinance, based on the length of the perimeter of the retention pond, we're supposed to provide certain plantings. And because that retention pond is behind the screen fence area, we would hope that we wouldn't have to screen the trees because we're really not screening it other than somebody that's working in the facility or possibly in the back end of the airport, which is not really highly desirable, I guess. Number 8, says a fence shall be constructed of redwood, cedar, or number L pressure treated wood. We were proposing a vinyl opaque fence there just for maintenance reasons. And that might be something that we'd be open to if for some reason you don't find the vinyl acceptable, but that was the reason we used the vinyl is just because it's one less thing we gotta worry about maintaining. Number 9, the trash enclosure shall be constructed of wood or masonry. Right now there's a dumpster that's proposed behind the building, so it's basically shielded from Grand River or anybody driving down the road from seeing it. The building itself screens it. There again, enclosing it. I guess we could do it if we had to, but it doesn't provide a full practical purpose for the facility afterwards. So what we hope for is we can talk through these things, and if it's agreeable, we'd like to get a recommendation for summary site plan approval and move forward with the final details so that build condition. And we're certainly here for any questions.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions.
By all means.
The trucking company, what kind of trucking company is it?
It's gravel train company.
Gravel trains?
Yep.
Okay, so is there materials on there, or just you're parking your trucks, or?
Parking trucks, yep.
I'm gonna be a little bit honest. We've had violations since May of 2024. And we've had a couple applicants coming before us about storage facilities, and we've held them pretty much to the standards that are listed here. The landscaping is not for inside of your property, it's for the outside, when people drive by, to try and make it look somewhat attractive. I'm very familiar with gravel trains. I'm a little bit, that's not the kind of trucking, but I guess it is what it is. But I guess I'm a little bit surprised as you're coming before us with all these things here, and we're supposed to be talking through them, rather than you coming before us with a plan that helps address a lot of these issues.
Well, just so we have been working on this a little bit, and we did come in and have a preliminary meeting with the planner, and we talked through these things, and he said, well, the recommendation was put down what you'd like to do and come in and discuss it with the planning commission, because
Okay.
you guys are the ultimate authority, so that's
Okay.
kind of how we got where we're at.
Okay, and I'm between us, I'm struggling a little bit about the vinyl fencing. I've seen what vinyl fencing, I've seen what happens to it after time, and there is maintenance involved with that to keep it look decent, keep it looking decent. So that's it for my comments, you guys.
Mr. Chair, I had some questions also.
Yes, sir.
So, one of the permitted uses is contractor storage in the IFZ district, right? But it says that is only allowed with the requirement that any area used for outdoor storage is completely enclosed and screened from external visibility beyond such storage area per section 1202. I've been by your site a couple times. Actually, I drove by it again, a second time on my way in. I see that you want to put a 6-foot high fence. I think it's in the setback. That's where you were talking about putting the vinyl fence. The drawing that I saw only extends, it doesn't extend along the north side of the property where you're showing a drive for your gravel trains, I think. Like Sharon mentioned, I'm struggling with enclosing it so it's not seen, because Grand River's a busy area right there. We've held other businesses to the standard where if you're gonna have an industrial area, which is somewhat of an industrial area, that you want the front to look presentable. So we're gonna throw a vinyl fence up this close to Grand River, and I think just the nature of the fence company, the way stuff's stacked all the way up, a 6-foot fence isn't gonna cover it. So I don't know, part of the landscaping, we talk about berms. I don't know if we can put fences on top of berms maybe. But that's what I'm really struggling with. I don't know how we fix that. That's up to you folks. But it's gonna need to be screened. So, also in one of your plans, you show a topsoil stockpile area. Like you have it a turnaround for your gravel trains also, but a stock. So were you planning on having materials there at all?
No, what that is that is a soil erosion plan. So
Okay.
the green office, when you're working on the site, they want you to show.
So this has nothing to do with the business, it just has to do with the,
It's a temporary stockpile
Okay.
area when you're like peeling the topsoil out of there to put the gravel in, and then when you're done, you remove that and use it for the grass.
and has there been any contact with the drain commissioner with this site at all? Have there, we didn't get any type of report, so.
Well, we haven't officially submitted to them yet, but we have had conversations with them on, we submitted a plan over and said that our hands are kind of tied because we don't have an outlet. So would they be agreeable to the retention pond, and the response was yes, as long as we comply with our new standards, which we did. So we don't have an official letter from them, which we plan on getting, but we wanted to get to this step, to make sure that we got kind of the basics down before we, start submitting out the details.
Okay. Also on the Grand River side of the site, behind the fence, was that meant for storage too? I think you showed a cross-hatched area that was gonna be, so it would be.
The area is intended to show where the storage will be, where it's allowed, and it's beyond the front setback there.
So when I drove through there, I looked at the neighboring business, Corrigan's one of them. They have their fencing running along the front of their building. Your fencing would be quite a bit further to the front of it, and then you're gonna store equipment there also? In that area, that's according to your site plan, right? In front of your buildings?
Equipment will be in the back.
But it will be in front of your buildings though? I think the site plan shows parking or storage in front of your buildings, between your building and Grand River. Is that not, no?
I think there actually is a little spot there that does show that, be behind the fence.
So the neighboring what I'm getting at is the neighboring properties all are concealing it behind their buildings or, and this would be a little bit of an outlier along that stretch of Grand River, I think.
Yeah, there again, our hands are tied a little bit because our buildings are in place. So, we have to kind of use the area that's
Sure.
allowable. And, the allowable area is beyond the front setback.
Okay, that's the only questions I.
Quick question on the screening itself, I know we have the airport on the two sides there, we talking we need screening on the four sides of the area, or 3 sides acceptable, or,
Especially on the Grand River side, I know when you're headed southbound on Grand River, you see right into the side of your property because you got that vacant lot next to you. I mean, it's unfortunate and it's just the nature of your business. I mean, you have a lot of equipment parked there, a lot of trucks parked every which way right now. Actually, it's probably the worst section of Grand River that is along that section at the present time. So, if we could come up with a site plan that kind of resembles something that's already there that fits with the area, I don't see that happening with this one right now. That's just my opinion, so.
Mr. Chair? I, like Commissioner Bowe, I also have some concerns about on the east side or the west side, screening there. I wasn't too concerned about the parking islands around your parking area, but deviating from asphalt or concrete, I'm not sure we can deviate from that. Can we, Brady? Can you?
I believe we can, if it's like an industrial parking area. I think we did it with outdoor storage over on Hydraulic Drive,
Okay.
some of the storages. But I think the parking areas in particular need to be paved.
Yeah, definitely on that. Does making the driveway and parking areas that you have as gravel, making them a non-pervious surface cause a problem with the retention area?
well,
the volume of it?
Yeah, the more we pay, the bigger the pond has to get there.
Okay.
So,
And, Lansing, I thought I read in the packet that we can't have a fence in the front of the properties. Did I not see that? I don't know, because there was 2 reviews in here. I thought I read.
I think there was something about a non-chain link fence.
Yeah, with the chain link fence.
Okay. Okay, because I know that Corrigan has a fence in front of his tow yard. You can see the propane tank, I guess. But he has okay, on that, so. That was my comment. I'm not sure if we feel comfortable approving a preliminary plan just yet, though.
I am not. That's my opinion.
Well, I did see something in the planner's report here about moving a utility pole.
That was on the first review, and what we did is we reconfigured the parking there to
Okay.
Yeah, I think they addressed that.
Has there been any thought to moving the retention pond to the front, possibly?
we've messed around with
No, that's not possible?
different things, yeah.
Okay.
It's, like I say, it's a difficult site because we're locked into the 2 buildings there, the 2 approaches, and you don't have an outlet, you know, so basically, if we put storm sewer in, there's no way to get the water out of that pond into any kind of a ditch or drain,
Okay.
so.
I was just thinking more of a swale type area would look more aesthetically pleasing in the front than equipment, but,
You know, the problem is, the way the guidelines are wrote with the new drain off is.
sure,
You
I
got a
understand.
freeboard and someone buying and an infiltration gallery, and it just, the thing gets the size of the Superdome kind of thing. So it's, kind of ended up, did the best we could do with what we got, is basically what we got.
Sure. And as far as fencing is concerned, I'm pretty sure our ordinance requires the pressure or the cedar, the wood fence. Brady, I think we have the ability to, do we have the ability to change that?
There was like nothing specifically in the zoning ordinance that stated you could waive that requirement.
Personally, I don't like the wood fence because after a period of time, it
And that's
weathers
something
and
that
falls apart.
We're not stuck on the vinyl, so
Yeah.
That's something, that's one of the things we could probably compromise in our end, if that's what everybody wants. That's not
I think, like we've all expressed here, or most of us here, is to enclose it, and so it's not visible. I don't know how we're gonna do that. I mean, that's,
Taller fence, go with an 8-foot fence, 8-foot wood fence rather than the 6-foot vinyl, is that kind of agreeable to everybody, or?
personally, I would like some type of rendering of what it would look like when it was done, and I think I would just like that because it's on such a heavily traveled road, and I think we need to have it match the surrounding area as best we can, because there are businesses in there that did have to put berms in there and they put trees in there. I don't think it's fair to have them do it and not do it in this case too.
One of the things that, you know, putting a berm in there is a little bit of a challenge also, because we have a real minor sheet flow from basically Grand River to the back. And if we berm it, then we gotta try to get that water around the berm.
Sure, I appreciate you're trying to use all the property that's there, especially with the businesses that you have. But that causes its own problems too, so.
Okay, any other input? No takers? Okay,
Do we want to hear from Brady?
yes, Brady, we do want to hear from you.
So, let's just go through I just want to make a few comments on what was discussed so far.
So there's 2 existing buildings on site, and the applicant is adding parking spaces for semi-trucks and employees, retention pond in northeast corner, and reconfiguring the storage area. One of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention is in the parking and loading section. With the asphalt, you do have the option to waive the requirement if the driveways, loading or turnaround or storage areas receive only limited use and are not used for employee parking, customer parking, or primary access. Gravel surfacing and potential problems arising from the dust or scattered gravel will not impact neighboring properties. And hard surfacing will not significantly increase the stormwater runoff and create a potential for flooding or soil erosion. That comment about the asphalt was just made for the truck parking in the back on the west side of the site. As for the landscaping on table 3, that's all they're required. Landscaping, you do have the option to modify that as well. And as for the fencing, the redwood, cedar, or pressure-treated wood was required by the zoning ordinance, and the trash enclosure constructed out of wood and masonry were also required by the zoning ordinance. There was no language in there stating like you have the option to modify it, so. Any questions for me?
So the only thing we actually have the authority to modify is basically the landscaping and possibly the parking lot material.
Yeah.
Do you guys understand that?
You could repeat that again?
So the only options that we as a planning commission can modify would be the landscaping requirements.
Okay.
And I think, I don't disagree that you don't need to put landscaping in the middle of your asphalt where you're gonna be turning your semis around in, right? So, but I think we're gonna have to see some, especially along the Grand River side. It's gonna be more the aesthetics of what it's gonna look like. So you,
Like we come up with maybe a taller fence with some tree screening and.
however you can try to screen it, but I mean, I've read it to you and you can read it, but it's what the requirement is. So, it's a tough business to get in there. I mean, that was recently, I think that was recently rezoned IFZ. So, as a contractor yard, but that's gonna be the requirement for it.
I do agree with Tim, though, if we can see it, like a drawing, like he called it a rendering or a drawing, because this is a lot of talking back and forth, but if we could actually see something visually, I think that would be very helpful. And it's just that there's a standard we've been holding other storage places to, and it wouldn't be fair if we tried to not, and for the people who live in the community too. We're just trying to make it visually attractive to people who live here, so.
Quick question for you, well, you know, some of that, there is a substantial amount of fencing that's there along the airport there and stuff. Are we looking to have a fence right next to a fence for screening, or? One of the things, we tied into the existing fences there, the part we're adding is opaque, but it's kind of like, sometimes you get a fence next to a fence, then you got kind of a disaster between the two, you know?
Right, but my concern, I know it's airport property, but I don't know if they want to look into the back of your yard either. I mean, so, to be fair to everybody, I think that's why the ordinance is written that way. I mean, there's no residence back there, obviously, but I don't know. I can't say that, right? So, how we screen that off, I think that's to be creative for you, I guess. That's, I mean, we're trying to give you some ideas on what, you know, what's required and what we can do, but what our concerns are too. I mean, the dumpster being enclosed, we don't have an option for that, but I mean, quite honestly, it's behind your building, right? I mean, where you want to put it. no one's gonna really see it, so. Some of the, I mean, I'm not opposed to having more impervious surfaces, because then you're not gonna have as much water runoff. But we are gonna have to have pavement in the parking areas, obviously, to be ADA compliant, so.
Just to clarify that, where the trucks parking, we're talking pavement, or the way we have it is acceptable?
How does everyone feel? I mean, you're talking about the semi trucks?
Pardon me?
The gravel trains?
Yes.
I did have one question. If you take them off the setback, where are you gonna put them?
We can move them inside.
Are you gonna have room for them? Okay. Those are just one of the concerns, right? I mean, obviously you had them in this, you're trying to put a lot into your site plan, and I appreciate that. But, you know, then again, is the drain commission gonna come in and alter your site plan too, right? I don't know.
We worked through that, I think we're okay there.
Are you?
I mean,
Okay.
We do meet their standards as far as I'm concerned, I mean, they'll do a formal review when we go to get the,
Okay.
3D permit, but, I think we're okay.
I don't think that semi-trucks need to park on asphalt or concrete. do you?
I don't
mean,
feel
would
that
say
either in the
gra-
back,
gra-
so I mean,
gravel
if
would
you,
be-
if you have a good, you know how to build a parking lot for your trucks. But, I kinda like that, cause there is, you don't have the runoff as much, so. I mean, we can work with stuff like that. I think the biggest issue we're dealing with is how it's gonna appear, especially from the public and your neighbors, so.
And they could use landscaping to shield off in the back and in the sides too.
It doesn't say, yeah, it just says it needs to be screened.
Yeah.
Right, so
You can
however,
use this
if you wanna plant a bunch of arborvitae's or whatever material does, I don't know, right? I mean, but that's what we need to see.
And I think that I'm more inclined to be agreeable to the gravel and have a semi-impervious surface as opposed to asphalting it, because there's a major drainage issue in that area. You don't see it all the time, but the storage unit further west was underwater. So, and I know, so keeping as much of it as non-pervious is, I think, a good thing.
Are you looking for a certain height when you say screen it? You don't wanna visually see it where.
It's gotta be screened. I mean, how we do that, I mean, with an artist rendering maybe, because I mean, some of the fencing that you have stacked there now is how high? 10 feet? 8 feet?
I guess I don't know, I can also.
I mean, I'm just guessing, right? When you drive by it looks like it's stacked pretty high. And then you got you got all your fencing trucks that are up there. They have some heights to them too. So, I mean, they're gonna stand up behind a 6-foot fence, if you got some berms and something planted on front of it where it's not visible.
Or at least detracts from it.
Yeah.
So when you're
Sure.
going by, you're seeing the landscaping, and yeah, there might be a truck behind it, or a pile of material, but.
I mean, you have the semis parked across from you, right? I mean, but, the semi-trailers are parked in they're orderly over there in the back, and, your lot, you got all your fence trucks that are in kind of willy-nilly at this point, so.
I just wanted to make a note, the maximum height that fence can be in the industrial, district is 12 feet.
Okay.
That's not 12 fence.
That's a really high fence.
Yeah, I don't, in the front,
I'm not, I know they've done, have we done berms and put fences on top of berms to get them higher, or is it just the berms, the plantings on top of the berms?
I think every
Typically it's
berm's
one
got plantings.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it doesn't even have to be a fence, right? So,
to me, if you're driving by and you're looking at a 12-foot fence, the whole front, except for a couple of drives, that doesn't seem.
that's where
Very
a
appealing.
visual rendering would be
Yeah.
nice to see.
I mean, there's industry going back on the stuff happening back there, but I'm not sure if I'm not sure if a 12-foot fence is appropriate to to shield that.
Okay, so,
What does that mean, Rob? I'm trying to follow your train of thought. What does that mean?
I guess if we're screening it, a 12-foot fence is gonna do a good job of screening it, but it's not very appealing to drive by there. Something, you know something's happening back in there. Maybe a berm and some plantings, or just something that is a little bit more visually appealing as opposed to just a 12-foot fence. Yes, yep. It's industrial and that, and it's a very busy site. I drive by it 4 times a day. It's a busy site, which is good. People are working and you guys are paying taxes. But just something, maybe some creativity in shielding it better in the front. I think fences are more appropriate on the sides, in the rear and side setbacks. But in the front, I'm not as.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't want to drive along and look at that long of a fence, right? I mean, quite honestly. Brady, I think are berms required?
Yes.
Okay. So berms are required. I thought I read that in the ordinance. Of some sort. So, I mean, you can look at that and see what you can work with. So, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fence, but it needs to be screened, and you need to be able to show it's gonna be screened. So, if that's either a fence, plantings, berm, however, you know your business, so.
okay. Now, I mean, getting some food for thought on this. Can we have a motion on the preliminary site plan review for Mr. Haslock?
I don't necessarily want to table it. I mean, I don't want to deny it. I'd like to table it if that's okay with you, so you'll have a chance to work on it. I think, is that acceptable? Is that acceptable to you guys? Okay. I mean, so you got a little better idea that.
And you've been on the violation report and been working with Jonathan for a long time, so I don't think this is a time critical thing as long as you keep it moving. So I think it'd be appropriate to just table it.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table PC 2025-22 at 3590 West Grand River Avenue, parcel number 4706-28-100-024, the preliminary site plan review pending additional landscaping, parking, and what were some of our other concerns?
Screening. You say screening?
Screening, landscaping?
And we've also got the drain commissioner's report that hasn't been done.
And if you could get any type of preliminary review from the drain commissioner, that would be helpful also. So make sure we're not gonna be changing the site plan afterwards due to something that they come up with.
Okay, we have a motion to table the site plan review from Mr. Bold. We have a second.
Second.
Second from Ms. Lolio. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, fellas. See you later. Okay, next up, we have an amendment to an approved site plan from EV Go on PC 2025-26 at 1475 Burkhart Road. We have the applicant. There's the applicant. Welcome, sir. Just looking in the wrong direction. Okay, what can you tell us?
I'm Josh Smith with Kinley Horn, the civil engineer, 3000 Town Center, Suite 2, 2600 Southfield
summary of the proposal, I can give you that too, so you guys have it on there.
Sure, let's have a summary, and then we'll hear our planner's report.
Yeah, so this is, EVgo public charging stations, removing 16 existing spaces, replacing it with 10 spaces, but with charging stations there. It's, I believe it's 6 cabinets, which charges all these different spaces for it. Net impervious area change is less impervious, because there's an island now for green space on it. Yeah, and the change your outlets area, so, I don't know what you guys wanna know, here to answer questions.
So did you say you're moving the existing chargers to a new location, or is this in addition to?
We're taking out the existing parking spaces and replacing it with,
Parking spaces, okay, so I know there's some charging there now, and I didn't.
there's no charging spaces there now, it's just parking right now, so, where these are proposed.
Okay, right, I meant at the mall in general.
Oh, I think there is some EV parking.
There's signs on the
Yeah, there's a
freeway
couple.
saying.
There's at least 16, there might be a
Yeah,
lot
there's
more.
somewhere else on the property. And that's-
Right, okay, that's,
Yeah, so these
that's
are
where my
additional
confusion lied.
charging spaces on the property, yes.
Very good.
Misunderstood the question, sorry.
Okay, well, Brady, what can you tell us?
All right, so, the applicant has submitted a request to amend the previously approved site plan for Kensington Valley Outlets, 304,000 square foot, shopping mall, built 1996. The request is redesigning 16 standard parking stalls into 10 standard electric vehicle charging stalls, of which 2 of those will be ADA accessible, and this will create a loss of 6 parking spaces from the site. The image below shows the location of the parking spaces that are proposed to be changed. And the reason why they have to go in front of the planning commission is because changes and relocations of parking areas are considered to be a major change amendment for a site plan that was already approved. For the review notes, the proposed modification will create a loss of 6 parking spaces. 2 of the 10 charging spaces will be ADA accessible. There is a 15 by 20 foot raised area in the northwest corner of the parking spaces that will be altered. That will contain a equipment pad, utility transformer pad, utility bollards, and equipment clearance area, landscaping, and a concrete curb that will be of standard height, which was good with the zoning ordinance. There was not much information provided on the landscaping itself, so the landscaping has to meet the equipment and screening standards of section 28.02 D2. There are 2 light poles proposed. There were no concerns about those light poles. Some of the things that the planning commission should consider while looking at this is the safety and placement of the parking spaces. Are they properly located to where pedestrians can get to the stores easily and safely, including ADA accessible people, and the screening of equipment, how will equipment be screened from the public view? Any questions for me?
Are we losing any ADA spaces to create these or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Yeah, it seems to be tucked back a bit between the two buildings there. Not necessarily a real planned parking area, which is the place to actually put a charging station, because those cars don't move for a while. Okay, well, if we have no questions. or
Mr.
concerns
Chair, I
with
did
the
have some, just a couple questions from the applicant. Concerning the screening that the planner mentioned, I mean, I'm just assuming that you kind of come and put these in all over the place, correct? And is this a standard model that you're putting in?
Yes.
Okay. What type of equipment is at the charging facility? I mean, is it just the chargers? So right now I went out there and they have they look like gas pumps, right? I think they're Shell. I don't know what the name on them is, but they're at the end of the parking aisles out there, right? And yours are all gonna be conglomerated right in between the two buildings on your site plan, right? So do you have any transformers there, or is all the power buried underneath, or does it come overhead, or?
So the transformer is in the island, the landscape island that's in the northwest corner there.
Okay.
That's a transformer which will distribute to the cabinets, which is where each of the charging stations are at. So, yes, there's a transformer that's in that area. Each cabinet has its own touch system interface, so you can pay to use it for public use. So it's all included in there. These are, I think these are slightly different than the other. These are level 3 charging. They're pretty fast. So I don't know if that's what's out there already. I'm not sure, but these ones are the most modern version of what they run now.
Are they what they call fast charger or supercharger or something?
Level 3 ones are fast charging.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
So the screening around the equipment out there, is this gonna be, I noticed that for some of the other ones that are out there, they had landscaping around them or pine trees or something. I don't know, you barely could see what the transformer was. Are you gonna cover that with anything or
Yeah.
enclose it with anything?
Knowing that landscaping is required, we'll meet the screening requirements.
Okay.
So. That's what I can do that.
No, that was the only questions I had.
Thank you, sir.
That's the transformer, yeah.
Anything else from the commission? Okay. Very well then, may we have a motion for the amendment to the approved site plan for EV Go at our Outwood Mall there at 1475 Burkhart.
You wanna do it?
Yeah, I'll move approval.
Poor Mike used to do
Of,
them.
PC application 2025-26 for EV Go, located at 1475 North Burkhart Road, parcel number 4706-29-400-008, which is an amendment to an approved site plan with the condition that the amendment abides by the landscaping standards of section 28-02.d.2.
Support, Bull.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion from Mr. Spalding, support from Mr. Bowl. All unapproved.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
My daughter always wants to go there, so I'm there once a month.
Okay. Next up on our list is a discussion on the data center ordinance, which we've got a wee bit of paper on.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I asked to have this put on the agenda, actually. Me and Jonathan talked about it, and I think at this point, that's why everyone's here. This was just supposed to be an informational type presentation, so we could kind of get started. That's why it's all online. It's all on the agenda. You can all go look at it yourself. So we're not really going to make any decisions up here. There were some comments made by the research committee that they would like to speak if no one has any objections.
Well, of course not.
Maybe we could get a comment from Brady too, since, did you write this, Brady? If we could maybe start with Brady and then
Absolutely.
we could move to.
Okay, so, at Carlisle Morgan Associates, we have a draft, data center zoning ordinance language. It's more of like a starting point rather than like it has to be this. So we can pick and choose what works or look at other ordinances. I know that the data center subcommittee was looking at a county in Georgia where they define different scales of data centers, hyperscale, small scale, and so this can be modified in any way that you see fit. In the past, there have been committees that work on ordinance updates with the direction of the Planning Commission, and usually there's draft language that we provide to the committee as a starting point. Usually there is a draft language that, a sample ordinance language that could be used as a template for potential data center ordinance. In addition, with the township attorney's office that also provided some sample language. And finally, Cohocton Township has adopted a data center ordinance that we could also pull from. And we recommend to review and consider the various elements in each of these ordinances and discuss what you want to include in your ordinance, especially with defining those different scales of data centers and how we want to deal with those. And the environmental regulations, water usage and all that.
Sure.
So, yeah, any questions for me?
I like the idea of defining different scales of data centers, so it's not a one-size-fits-all ordinance. I think that's certainly appropriate. Particularly when it comes to building power plants on the site. I've got to think that's, as was mentioned earlier, that has to be a whole separate permitting process. I mean, what's it take to stand up a coal-fired power plant on your property? That's a lot different than a big building full of computers.
We were given 3 drafts. Obviously, Carlisle Wortman has this one draft. The Howell Township draft, who produced that?
The township attorneys.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if we hear from the members of the research committee?
Please do, absolutely.
Pick one.
Hi, I'm Jody Hinton. The Resident Research Committee, also referred to as the RRC, was formed to assist researching new technology uses such as data processing facilities, cryptocurrency mining facilities, battery energy storage systems, etc., and their related impacts, and then provide that research to the township to assist in the writing and updating of ordinances. And we'd also like to acknowledge all the great ideas brought up tonight by the residents just like us. Thank you. Tonight, the committee hopes to discuss what the process of working together with the Planning Commission will look like, including how we will work with the PC to make template ordinances, I'm sure you just answered a little bit on, for these new uses, and how these templates will be used as working copies while we proceed through the ordinance sections, providing research along the way with hope for open dialogue. The RRC identifies 2 categories of focus for the steps leading up to ordinance writing. One being understanding the new uses, their definitions and what they entail. And 2, understanding what the negative impacts these new uses typically have associated with them, including during the construction phase. With a solid base understanding, the different ordinance options can best be considered. When this community first learned of the previous rezoning application for a data center, most of us had little to no knowledge of what a data center was, myself included, let alone cryptocurrency mining, which is sometimes included in data center ordinances. We provided a list of definitions for reference tonight. It's important to note that some of these new uses do not yet have definitions in the dictionary. That's an example of why we should exercise caution to to be sure we have an accurate understanding of these new tech uses as we proceed. I won't read the definitions. You guys have a copy, so we're good there. Along with the definitions, we provided, for reference, the DeKalb County text amendment for data centers, and we provided that because it was another example of tiered definition approach, utilizing a separate name and definition for each data center size bracket. Kristen has put together some research on the history of data center evolution that she would like to present to you guys right now.
Good evening. I went on another rabbit hole. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read the longer version, but I'm not reading that to you. Just kind of, I don't know if I could call this summarizing it, but touching on the main ideas. So as Jody said, the Resident Research Committee has been compiling an extensive collection of research references and ordinances from across the state and country, and would like to provide some important background information and context for the Planning Commission to use as the work and discussions on data center ordinances begins. We submitted a longer version of this information along with some sources, and we hope you'll find it useful to familiarize yourself with before the real work begins next month. One of the first issues we will have to consider, which I personally brought up, I'm pretty sure at last month's meeting, but I'm trying to lose track of which meeting is which zoning district data centers belong under. We have come to believe that this is not a one-size-fits-all decision. And the reason lies in the history of data centers. The first data centers emerged in the 1940s and 50s for research applications at universities and when the US military developed an air defense system during the Cold War. This application caught the attention of the commercial airline industry, and IBM partnered with American Airlines to create a streamlined airline ticketing system around 1960.
Sorry, I'm trying to shut this thing off.
So this is considered like one of the very first like commercial data centers, was that partnership between IBM and American Airlines. And it consisted of just two IBM 7090 mainframe computers, but of course at that time those two computers would have required a fairly large room to house them. These initial applications for research and airline ticketing is interesting when you consider Howell Township's Research and Technology District, which is where, of course, data processing happens to be mentioned. And the RT district, according to the purpose in the ordinance book, was intended for the development of land uses that directly relate to airport service. The ordinance was last updated in 2013, though it is unclear what was changed when data processing was included in the context of the scientific research use, or if any other updates had occurred between 83 and 13. As technology advanced, so too did data centers. By the 80s, data centers were still primarily office-scale rooms within buildings, and over that decade began expanding into their own dedicated facilities. With the birth of the internet in the 90s, data centers dedicated to web hosting and e-commerce began to emerge. In the early 2000s, cloud computing revolutionized the industry, and that is when the first hyperscale facilities began to be seen. So we've heard the recent data center proposal being referred to as a hyperscale data center. But it's crucial to understand that the definition of the term hyperscale just refers to data centers that contain more than 5,000 servers and 10,000 square feet. For perspective, the average Walmart is 106,000 square feet. So a facility could meet the hyperscale threshold and still be dwarfed by the recently proposed AI data center campus here in Howell. Even as recently as 2013, when the RT ordinance was last updated, data centers were still essentially just ordinary office buildings with relatively average infrastructure needs. Data centers built for the express purpose of artificial intelligence did not hit the scene until around 2017. They only began overtaking regular hyperscale data centers as recently as 2022. This timeline is critical to consider because the inclusion of data processing in the RT ordinance is inherently tied to the intent of the district whenever the term was initially listed in the permitted uses, and how data centers looked and functioned at that time. Part of the reason we seem to only recently be hearing about problems with data centers when we have lived and worked amongst them for decades without really noticing is because of the fundamental differences between the original types of processors data centers housed and the types of processors utilized for artificial intelligence. Ordinary data processing facilities primarily utilize CPU processors, which excel at managing multitasking. They are the types of processors used since the beginning and are still processors used for cloud storage and hosting. Artificial intelligence primarily utilizes GPU processors, which excel at running millions of similar repetitive tasks. These different processors have significantly different impacts. A single rack of CPU processors may require 5 to 10 kilowatts of power per rack. GPU processors may require 50 to over 100, even up to 500 kilowatts per rack. This tremendous difference in power is why hyperscale campuses with millions of square feet of purpose-built AI facilities consume more power than entire cities. That amount of power also generates a lot of heat, which is why they require such massive industrial-scale cooling systems, which tend to consume gargantuan amounts of water. Cooling systems are also the source of most of the noise that these facilities produce, which is one of the most common complaints from neighboring properties. Cryptocurrency mining is a closely related use that also has its own unique set of considerations. The processors for crypto mining share more in common with AI processors and are capable of having significantly more impact per square foot compared to other data centers of comparable size. There is an instance right here in Michigan of a school filing a lawsuit against a crypto mining facility across the street whose noise is unreasonably disruptive to their learning environment. So as you can see, there is a wide range of data processing facilities, from small-scale rooms of servers dedicated to serving the enterprise functions of a primary use facility, like some actual scientific research, to office-sized buildings containing CPU processors for cloud storage, all the way to entire campuses of hyperscale facilities built for the express purpose of AI data processing. Each of these unique uses come with varying degrees of community impacts. The RCC is committed to continuing to study these differences and impacts and helping Howell Township responsibly address the range of different data centers that exist. Some may be low impact enough to be incorporated into the RT district, such as an ancillary facility of servers dedicated to facilitating the business functions of the primary use, while others, according to their size and infrastructure needs, may be better suited for industrial flex or as a special use in industrial and with strict operational standards and parameters. We would like to reiterate that hyperscale AI data centers, and especially entire campuses of them spanning several hundreds of acres, simply did not exist when Howell's RT ordinance was written or when data processing was listed. This history and these nuances must be carefully considered as the Planning Commission begins the process of evaluating the types of ordinances to adopt. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we are eager to get the process started. We look forward to working together to help with the careful, methodical drafting of thoughtful ordinances that ensure harmonious land uses for the development of a strong, healthy community that will serve as a model for the entire state.
Thank you.
A few meetings back, a commissioner expressed some concern about the impact a hyperscale data center might have on residential properties. I later reflected on that concern, as it's one that I also share. And I felt that we needed data on the topic of residential concentration. I really like data points. And I worked with aerial imaging a lot in my previous career. So I plotted the site on an aerial image with an area marked around it in green, indicating the zone for the residential homes that fell within 2,640 feet of the site. I placed red pins in this zone, one for each residential address, and I labeled every pin to ensure an accurate count. We have 183 homes within close proximity to the previously proposed site. We brought this tonight because we think it speaks volumes as to why it is so important we get things right with these ordinances. We trust this planning commission, and we know that they'll utilize the time the moratorium provides to ensure careful consideration to craft the best possible ordinances, and the committee looks forward to assisting the PC in this endeavor. and we hope everyone walks away from tonight's meeting with a clear understanding of what items will be discussed at the next meeting. That way the committee can have the applicable information prepared. Thank you.
There are a lot of red dots there.
Chuck's in there.
What?
You're in there, you're red line.
But you don't
I'm in there. That's
You-
what I gave them right off the bat. I said, here's me and there's the property. Here's the line, 2,236 feet. Like I said, inside 2,500 feet.
So I do know from past ordinances, the one that comes to mind was the electronic billboard zoning we put up, that we couldn't make it so restrictive that it was impossible to house within the township. That's essentially a ban.
Correct, exclusionary.
Thank you. So, we've gotta walk that fine line that what would we require for a hyperscale data center? Not to exceed X amount of square feet and power consumption below another parameter. Water consumption in there too. I mean, there's a lot of variables here. We say it can't be within, I don't know, 5 miles of another structure. I mean, that's obviously going a little over, but if we can do it, we should.
So we won't be meeting again till January, right? So
Right.
I don't think we have half of the information that we need to actually get started.
Yeah.
But this is
There's
just,
certainly
this
more
is
comments
just
for sure.
information that's being put out there so we can start wrapping our heads around it and maybe come back in January. So maybe we can discuss how we want to proceed with a template. I know Brady mentioned one. Do we have any thoughts on that? I mean, we need something to start with. So maybe we decide that in January, if that's okay with everybody, or if someone has any ideas now. I mean, I'm more than open to ideas. But this was more about presenting the information and start getting your head around, because there's a lot here to do.
There's a lot to look at.
A lot of good information that comes from people sitting out there too, so.
No, I think for me, Mark Fosdick's a friend of mine, so I think I might be contacting him just to find out what they discussed and.
I mean, do we want, Brady, is it possible for you to bring a template back that we can start on? We need somewhere to start.
Yeah, I can do that.
Other than what we have, you mean?
Well, I mean, then we can take the template, and if we like part of that, we can start working there and switching stuff out or adding stuff or taking stuff out that we don't like. We just need to start somewhere.
I think some of the question is, what's the most appropriate zoning for this? Is it a special land use? Is this like a planned unit development situation where you can have it? Because it really, and Chris, I'm about 2/3 the way through your report. So it's been on my kitchen table for like 2 weeks, and
Oh,
but
you're talking about my big one.
you're the big one.
Are you
yeah.
sitting on it? Just get to the table, you know?
No, it's there. It's a lot.
What you trying to say?
There's like 50 reference things to it. So, but thank you for doing that. No, just finding the appropriate zoning, because it is something that really doesn't fall into a specific box.
Well, it could vary. Your smaller data centers could be within IFC, within parameters of, square footage, power consumption, all the concerns that apply to every data center type. A data center that supplies info for a hospital or a business park is completely different than what we're talking with AI data centers or cryptocurrency.
I think Kristen made an excellent point with that. Quite honestly, I hadn't even thought of that until you brought it up tonight, that there are many opportunities for it to be an IFC or R&T or maybe even RSC, NSC. I mean, in different categories, if it's a minor thing. we can't just ban them all together, so.
And
Yeah, we can't.
Depending on
together.
size, yeah.
I think that the rule, you know, the zoning should be appropriate for the scale of the development.
It's a whole nother chapter in the ordinance.
It's a-
So I mean, there's a lot there, right? So we just need somewhere to start, is what I'm trying to get
Honestly,
to
I
at
think
this
that's
point.
why we're discussing this, is
Sure.
because we didn't have this. And that's what made this a opportune area for them to request
And
their,
that,
their product or their development to be.
another thing that I've been thinking about is we draft an ordinance, and what the applicant came through, and we've all seen the second amended offerings, and that they put a lot of restrictions on themselves. And my fear is we draft an ordinance that is maybe even less restrictive as what they put upon themselves. And they, no, I'm, no, just let me, I guess let me rephrase that. They're, in their last, amendment, they were 50% lot coverage. So if we do something and we're at 55 or 60% lot coverage, it kind of goes, you know, we're being less restrictive than they would have been if they proposed. So
We can use the most restrictive languages out there in other ordinances, including their proposal.
yes, somewhere between walking the line of being too restrictive and exclusionary and you know, what they might offer. So this is gonna be a big project to do.
They weren't just 50% lot coverage, it was their terminology, I think they were using 50% impermeable surfaces.
I think we have to do what's right for us.
Yeah, of course.
No.
Well, we just gotta get there. That's the hard part.
I think what you were saying about what you were saying about, like, they were offering, you know, 50% lot coverage, and I think that has a lot to do with the parcel they were looking at, knowing that it was surrounded by all that residential. If a hyperscale campus is going to be something the ordinance accommodates, it doesn't have to allow it in an area surrounded by residential. The master plan specifically says that industrial zoning should be buffered from residential by commercial and industrial flex. So you might not need to have, you know, such lot coverage restrictions if it's not directly adjacent to people's homes and stuff like that. So that's a great point, but I think that's something we can address in making sure it's in the right section, the right district, and any other tier, you know, based on the size and stuff, so.
Is it legal to restrict the electric usage of a company or a business or anything in our state? Is that?
I don't think we could do that at the township level. I think
That might
that'd
be
more
something
the-
more at the state
The
regulation.
NPSC to look at at the state level.
They've already got the, stub on the other side of the highway for the natural gas power plant. We've been fighting that for years already. If this data center goes through, that power plant's gonna happen.
Right.
Period.
This is gonna drive.
Because the high tension power lines are already across the expressway, they've already got the ability to just add more lines to those towers. They're gonna put that power plant in, and then all of Howell is gonna be underneath the fog and smog that comes off of that power plant. Will be dropping right over the top of Howell all day, every day.
That's on that
Which-
south part.
It's off Mason Road.
Handy Township, correct?
Be handy up there.
Are you talking about the intersection of the Rover natural gas pipeline and ITC on Munsel's property where, okay.
They already put the gas line stub in there. It's already sitting there waiting to go, and what is it, 6, 7 years ago, we went and fought that to get them not to put that in.
Yeah.
And it got stopped then, but guaranteed, if this data center is gonna go in, that's gonna happen. They're going to push it through because it's going to be the quickest, easiest way to get power to it. And then all of our groundwater is gonna get polluted. We need to have certain things, closed loop cooling for guaranteed, no two ways about that. We need to have something along the lines of all houses within a certain proximity of the data centers. It's a no questions asked, if the water starts running low in those wells, that the company has to re-drill those wells for the customers or for the residents around. Because it's for sure gonna drag all the water out.
Mine has to go from 65 down to 185 feet if this happens. They've already told me, I've got the quotes on it. And I've gotta go to the next batch of clear water beneath my property. If they suck that groundwater away, is 185 feet down. That quote is between, depending on what type of bedrock, what they've gotta go through, it's between $12,000 and $24,000. You need to understand that. This is no minor thing. Now put that across, what, how about you say 180 what?
183.
Okay, so tap that into 24,000, because they're gonna have to go that low. This is no petty amount of things with these wells, folks. I know.
And the chemicals used, because all the water that they're gonna use to cool these things, they're gonna have to add chemicals to them to not destroy all the equipment.
Synthetic.
Well, that's exactly right, and that never goes away. So there needs to be something that is not being allowed back into our groundwater.
No, of course, absolutely,
Well, if they're using a pump and dump system, that's what's gonna happen. Even if it's going into retention ponds, it's gonna build in a retention pond and eventually sink back into.
Right.
It needs to be something along the lines of, like a landfill, where these retention ponds, if they're using an open retention pond to hold the water, that has to have a, neoprene basin.
I have a question. I know this is not like the
No, but we do have a public, call to the public coming up after this.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I understood. So is it illegal for us this exclusionary thing, it's illegal for us to say, we don't want this type of business in our township?
We can't create we can't create a ordinance that excludes. I believe Paul had cited a case in Chicago where they were talking about shooting ranges, and they zoned it to the point where it could be nowhere within that county. And the Supreme Court shot that down as exclusionary. You can't create zoning that specifically excludes businesses.
Then how is cannabis damage?
How are strip clubs excluded? Sounds stupid, but
Yeah, I'm just like trying to wrap my head around like, how did that happen, but we can't, but it doesn't apply to yours.
So I think it has something to do with the demonstrated need. So I mean, I don't know if we can say that Howell Township, because we need to focus on Howell Township's ordinance right now. And a lot of your concerns, I've seen them in ordinances, but you know, we're talking the specific site plan that's been withdrawn at this point. So our ordinance needs to be for the entire township. So
But we could limit the size, yes, like Kristen's definition.
those are all different. Those are all different things we can put into the ordinance.
I think you could very clearly write an ordinance in a way that someone cannot come in and build a 1,077-acre hyperscale data center around hundreds of residential homes. That's the goal.
Sure.
So, yeah,
But-
all the rest of it is the nitty-gritty details.
You can't exclude, but you can restrict. Is that
Yes.
correct? Because if you exclude, does that open up?
That's a rudimentary explanation of it. So
We were doing the digital billboard zoning. We had to have at least some place in the township that fit that definition for a digital billboard, and it's right along 96. So that's what we have to avoid, otherwise, we're just gonna get sued.
Right. What about
It's good for everybody.
This side or the other side of 95?
Right outside the outlet mall. So it'd be the west side.
Is that even if there's a special election and we say no data centers? Is that still the case, that it can be
I don't
overruled?
know how a special election would play into this, honestly.
Yes.
What?
You mean like a referendum?
Oh, yeah.
No.
That's a slippery slope because they've got way more money than we do.
Yeah.
And they can go and advertise the hell out of it, saying, oh, this is gonna be great for you. And there's enough sheep that'll just go, sure, let's do that.
I have a question about the wells. Like, a lot of us are in that area where something happens to our wells. We're not allowed to dig a new well, we are forced to tie in. So is there gonna be anything written in there for like those things? Cause that's crazy expensive.
I think that might be more in the site plan, or would that be applicable in zoning?
No, that would be like a zoning, that'd be like a zoning issue.
No, I'm in the same boat, I get it.
So I don't know if that would be in like in an agreement with the if a developer came in and the wells were proven, you know, that they would pay to hook up
I was
any
thinking
any
it would be
residents that
more
were
specific to
affected.
the site versus zone, that
I mean,
they'd
I
be
think that was
liable
talked about in
for
this last application, wasn't
Well,
it?
They're using
forcing the
them hog in this
resident
last
to
one.
connect if their well goes bad, if they're in,
the water and sewage district,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know if that would be in an ordinance or if it would be a site plan issue.
Sounds like a question for Brady.
What about stipulating building times on this stuff? So it's not a 7-year, 10-year project. Obviously, it would have to be by the size of the data center, but still.
Right, again, I don't know if that's a zoning thing or versus a site plan, but
Would that be a
that's
land
kind of
use?
a two-edged sword, though. If it doesn't drag on for a period of time, then you're gonna have a ton of stuff going on all at once.
And likely 24/7 construction,
Now, that we could certainly cut back on, but
you know.
they just might not care and do it anyway, pay the fees.
What were they gonna ask for?
That's happened in the past where they promised
Yeah.
certain hours
Port
and then,
Washington, Wisconsin.
and then they said we can't do it in that period, now we gotta have 24/7 construction. And the township had to bend over for it because they would've been stuck with more years of construction. So, once they get in and start, you know, they gotta start it.
So are there any discussion from the board? I mean, Brady, are you ready to bring something back in January? Do we wanna just wait until January, or do we wanna like pick a couple things that maybe we can discuss in January? Whether it's zoning, whether it's size.
Yeah, I think segmenting it into the types of data centers that coincide with the size and possibly different districts, as was said, we could look at commercial, IFC, and industrial based on square footage, power consumption perhaps.
And there's several different examples we can look at and come back in January and discuss that. part.
Okay.
Okay.
I can bring some examples for the next planning commission on zoning.
Excellent.
So, okay.
And is everyone aware of the work that they've done is on the township site now, website now?
Where's it at on there?
So if you go to the township website, go to the planning commission and
Under
click on the
Government Planning
packet.
Commission packet, yep.
All of our information's on there that we see up here, and then the residents research committee's information's on there too that they supplied. So it's all transparent. It's on the addendum.
There's
Yep.
addendum, okay.
And
I
if
know
there
that was
is,
on there.
It just got added.
if
Oh,
you
got comments.
have information, the earlier you can get it, I know it was presented yesterday, we get our packets on Thursday, so
Yes, we
we're
didn't see
kind of
that.
programmed to
That
start.
was what we were hoping, was to kind of walk away knowing what we should focus on, so we can get
get
it to you.
in time
Yeah,
next
that's-
year.
Yep.
Could I ask, just because many of us are engaging for the first time, what does the ordinance, what does this process look like in terms of getting one written, getting it reviewed, getting it approved, who's involved and at what stages, when does the public have an opportunity to provide feedback? I think a lot of people maybe don't have a full understanding of that process, and it might be helpful to have just a foundational understanding of that.
I don't either, so please explain it. Because I've never, this has been the biggest thing we've ever, so how, it's huge.
So we've done a lot of, not a lot of ordinance, but we've done a number of ordinance. Jonathan, I think you're probably the best versed to explain the process, being the zoning administrator.
Sure. So it's like the other ordinance you've worked on. You guys discuss it. The planner is who draws it up. You guys argue about it at the next meeting. He goes back and makes changes. Eventually, the planning commission has to have a public hearing on it. You can have more than one. You obviously have engagement. I think that's good. You have call to the public so you can hear them out. If I were to make a recommendation to you, I would treat it like a term paper. So I would say, once you get your template, you say, listen, the three big things that we're going to tackle at the next meeting or try to are A, B, and C. That gives them something to work on. It gives something you to focus on. You don't have to get it nailed down so it's perfect, but then you can move to the next couple items that are on your list. And in the end, you'll have your full term paper, right, your ordinance, and then you can go through and you can tweak stuff, right? So maybe the thing that you added at the end actually affects the thing you did at the beginning. So you got to go through and adjust things. And then what I would suggest is you have the public hearing. Normally we do it at the front end because you want people's comments. You have all their comments. Once you're done, you want to hear from them again to make sure that they've read through it. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at it, understand it, and then they can come back to you and yell at you some more about all the stuff you screwed up, and then you guys can start again.
And then what happens after that?
So if they approve it, whatever they approve, goes to county planning, they make their recommendation, goes to township board for approval.
Okay.
But at any of those steps, it can come back to us.
Okay.
So if the county planning says, well, we want you to revisit this section, or the township board does the same, it can be a time-consuming process. When I first came onto the planning commission, we were talking about kennels, and we just wrapped it up, I'd say within 3 months of my beginning of my term. They've been working on it for 2 years. We're talking about dog kennels.
So we'll have an opportunity as the public to share any concerns or feedback we have, not only at the township planning commission level, but at the county planning commission level and the board, just like we did with this recent.
Of course, absolutely.
It would go just like the last person.
I'm laying it out for the masses. You're gonna post it anyway.
It's also important to notice that the county, when it goes to the county review, it's just a recommendation at the county level too, right? So the county can't really change anything. So when it comes to the township board, they have the ultimate authority. It's just like this last process that went through with the rezoning, right? So the township board can do several things when they get it. They can kick it back to the planning commission if they want something modified or something different.
But in the meantime, can it still go through?
Not until it gets to the township board.
No.
It has to be approved at the township board level.
What about the supposed executive order that's supposed to take, the ability for states or townships?
So that's, are you talking about PA 233?
He's talking about Trump's executive.
Okay, that.
It doesn't, from what I read.
That he signed last week.
It's nothing to do with, it's
I
about
mean,
AI use.
that's
It's
federal.
about AI
I mean,
use.
yeah,
It's not
I don't think it has anything to
data
do with
centers.
local siting.
No.
I think that's authority still rests with us.
You can't just get jammed down our throat no matter what.
Can they?
I not that I'm aware of, but I mean, I would never say that it couldn't.
I have a question about the moratorium. So, Mr. Williams said that the dog kennel deal went for 2 years, and our moratorium only exists for 6 months. So if we're not done with this process, then can we, ask the township board to extend the moratorium? Just make sure that we've got,
You can.
cover, essentially?
So the board can extend the moratorium. It does have to be a reasonable amount of time. So obviously, I don't know if 2 years would be reasonable.
No, in increments, obviously, and
No,
I think we have to show progress.
I know that was an
too.
example, I'm just saying, I don't know if 2 years would be considered reasonable or not, right? But as long as we're working towards it, I think that we're probably fine. The board's gonna know from both Tim and myself where we're at, so we'll know when the moratorium's getting close and if this board's getting close to being done.
I think the board should be aware too that our Livingston GOP chair is really advocating for it on the right side podcast. And, not only do I disagree with the government's, our governor's overreach and federal overreach, we've got a local GOP chair, like the commissioner, really pushing for it. So it's something we need to keep in our wheelhouse.
So, do we want to pick a couple subjects that we can come back and discuss in January? Or,
Yes, absolutely.
which were those, just so we're all clear?
Well, we're talking about the
Different scales of them?
different scales of the
Scaling?
development.
Tim, hold on one
Among
second.
different zoning.
Can I have 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to address that comment. So you're talking about Deb Direct. Correct. But I don't want to turn this into a Democrat or Republican issue. I understood.
Leader in our county that's advocating for it, whether she's, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle she's on.
I understand that. Well, you keep calling her the GOP chair and,
Dragging politics into it.
okay.
This is non-partisan board.
That's
Our
correct.
decision
That-
making.
And
Yeah,
that's why we're talking about it. We're not talking about Republicans or Democrats. We're talking about an issue for our community.
You guys to keep in your wheelhouse leaders that are either silent or vocally advocating for it. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. I'm
Well,
not
then
happy with
I don't need
either.
to hear that she's the Republican chair, so,
Advocating
okay.
to us about it.
Right.
I mean, unless
No.
they're in this crowd.
Okay, go ahead,
And I
Tim.
think the appropriate, which zoning it may fit
So
into.
zoning and the scale of them?
Scaling,
Yeah.
zoning.
Definitions of,
Are you talking about the different types?
there's a lot of definitions, right?
Talk
So,
about cryptocurrency mining and data centers, or data processing facilities, sorry.
is there, I know in those ordinances that are there, are there listings of definitions?
Yeah, so
So,
I use.
is it, do you guys think that's too much to take on if we take definitions too, along with zoning and scale?
I think they kind of go hand in hand. The tier.
Definitions and scaling for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
I like the tiered thing that she's talking
Yeah,
about.
And the text amendment, we were provided that by the applicant.
Yes.
Is that, you guys have done research on that? Obviously, you don't want, the fox making the garden, the chicken house rules. But where's your research finding on that definition? I mean, it pretty much put everything,
Yeah. It would-
You might open the can of worms.
Okay, so,
There's a lot more extensive passport.
okay.
We looked it up on AI.
No, so, I want, included in the packet is Cahacta's.
Yep.
Okay, so look at theirs, cause theirs is really good. And I'm also gonna compare theirs, that you're gonna take a peek at, with what Webster's dictionary outlines, okay? So, Webster's dictionary defines a data processing facility as the physical location, a building, dedicated space within a building, or group of buildings that house the people, hardware, and software organized to provide these information processing services. Period.
End of story.
And
I
I
hired
think I
people
would
to
have
do
to
data
say that
processing.
Mike Comier,
That's
the
a building.
attorney that drafted Cahacta's, and if you'll see, it's a very similar definition. I think he had a reason for ending it right there. too.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we good? We got a direction?
I believe so, yes.
Yep.
The direction, a lot of good information.
There is.
A lot of information.
Lot to process.
Yeah, and I thought ADUs and shipping containers were. That's controversial.
That was amateur stuff. It took us 6 months to do an ADU, but.
I went through this, it melted my brain.
Okay, well, closing that discussion, our next item up is a call to the public. Is there
Now
anyone
everyone gets
we
a chance to
haven't
talk.
heard from? Hey, Mr. Smith, please, step to the mic.
Jeff Smith, 3774 Mason Road. That's what I was trying to say with what I said at the very beginning, is look at restricting the key components of what a facility is and incorporate it into that. And you'll make it restrictive enough, you don't have to go overboard, just restrict it enough so that they look away because they can't function underneath the restrictions. The second thing I wanted is not the center topic, it is HAZLOT. Please pay attention to where the county drain does go underneath Grand River and empties into the airport. I think it's on the west border of this property.
It is.
It is. So before they start messing around with the stormwater and the lines and burning and fencing, know that there is a drain right there and it's gonna take out this property if it ever really floods. So, make sure you get their drain commission certificate before you.
Of course, yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Just what this gentleman talked about, he's 100% right that that natural gas plant is gonna come online if this data center happens. They first proposed Munsell to build it there because it was on site. That's where they went first. Then they ended up with the property that they're at now. This has turned into, Kristen's doing incredible work on the ITC lines that are happening in Cohocton, the solar, this is all connected. I think everybody can see that this is just not just a township whole issue, this is way, way bigger. This is turning into countywide, this is turning into the middle of the state of Michigan. Our core group has had people from Mason, Auburn, Southfield, 9 other municipalities, people just are being bombarded with this stuff. And they are they're looking at us as the guiding light through this, surprisingly. So as these two ladies are doing an incredible job in taking hours of their life to take this serious, come alongside them, because we're coming alongside you guys to be that direction for way bigger than this room. So just know that we're here to do that with you. And the only question I have for the board is theoretically, because I'm kind of curious, working through these ordinances, if the moratorium does expire, board doesn't continue it, what happens if an applicant comes back, requests a rezoning for a data center while you guys are working on the ordinances?
Right.
I'm just curious about what that process would look like and if you guys.
Well, I think we'd look at tabling that until the zoning.
The way it is right now, it would have to go in R&T zoning. They would have to rezone to get to the R&T zoning. Yeah, so it'd start that process again.
And the moratorium does not stop rezoning applications, so they could move forward under the existing moratorium, at least through rezoning.
And you had said there's was a 1-year waiting period when we had talked. That wasn't about a rezoning request. What?
No, it is. So if you request a rezoning and are denied,
Okay,
you have to
okay,
wait a year
okay.
on the same application.
So them pulling it equates to no denial.
Right.
You could come in tomorrow and they could.
We've had applicants do it at the planning commission. They're there, they don't think it's going their way, and they'll say, you know what, I'm gonna withdraw my application, or I'll postpone it, right? So they do that because they don't wanna be denied and have to wait a year.
Well, can that come in front of the planning commission within the year, since we already denied it?
Right.
Well, we denied it at our.
We recommended it. We just
recommended to deny it, yeah.
Right. So no, the way they did it, they would have to start over and they could file tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, the gentleman who talked about restrictive, and he talked about drains, it just came to mind that Wasso Road, the Red Cedar Drain or whatever it is, the Van Gillers have drain tiled that whole field. They went ahead, and this is in the last few years, on the one side, they ran drain tile all the way through there, and guess what? I'm just thinking about water and drainage, and anything that happens in the field up above is still gonna come down into the Red Cedar Drain. Because guess what? They don't farm that anymore. They used to, they tried to. Every time they put a crop in, it rotted. They put in the drain tile, thought that was gonna do it, the whole area, and it hasn't. So that groundwater will seep in that direction, okay? That just came to mind when you were talking about that. And you know, what came to mind on the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the Merriam-Webster today, and this was on 93.5, you guys probably heard it. I'm driving, and guess what the word of the year is? Slop. Yeah. Okay? And you wanna know what is in reference to? Data centers.
AI generated
I
garbage.
couldn't make this up. So I thought that's a great way to end the meeting if this is getting close to it. Hint, hint.
I gotta read something too, if nobody else can come up here.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, living in Howell Township, thank you to this team. I am so impressed, the research, the time that you are dedicating to this for us. I can't thank you guys enough, so thank you. This is what We the People is meant to be, right? It is We the People, so thank you very much, I appreciate it.
And the planning commission, yes,
Yes.
thank
Thank
you. And also thank you for educating us, because I think that this is a lot of people's first time and we're all learning together, and there can be a lot of fear and a lot of anger when the education is being missed. So just little opportunities to say, this is why we're doing this, or this is how this process looks, I think are gonna be really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
And for the residents, stay engaged and spread the word to everyone else to stay engaged. Because the research team is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But they need support. They're not getting paid to go handle this for the whole community. They need everybody behind them.
You guys need to stay engaged no matter what happens, even after the data centers. Things are happening in your backyards and you need to be aware of it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Right. Yep. That's a lesson that's taught all of us.
So from now on, this room's always gonna be full.
We love it!
Gonna need a bigger boat.
We may have to rent out the high school every month.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Okay, I'll make it quick then. I've been contacted, as I said, I've been contacted by different news groups. God only knows why they picked the big fat guy wearing the lion stuff. I got this yesterday
I'm in
at
that club.
6 p.m. Hi Chuck, Mike Duffy with Channel 7. Wanted to follow up about a possible interview Wednesday afternoon. I also sent you an email on Friday night. Please feel free to give me a call when you're able. I came back with, hi Mike, did you get my voicemail? Any emails about this? I won't be available due to commitments I have at work. It's at the end of the year, both literally and fiscally, stay with me on this. So I have to be here and I have to be focused on what I'm doing. I've got a lot of responsibility to where I work as well. However, I did give you a couple of options for people who lead the Stop the Data Center Livingston group who are interested in speaking with you. Those being, number one, Kristen Dennison, who also lives by the 1,000 acres and actually sits on our zoning committee and would know a lot more than that. Two, Lauren Ashley, who will be speaking at the Stop the Data Center as well. And the protest at the state capitol today if you choose to come. Both are great speakers and great leaders for our STDC community, and I'm sure you would be impressed with both of them. Please let me know what your plans are, and if you'd like to speak to them. And I'm sorry I couldn't be available with you. This is what the same guy came back with. Chuck, thanks for getting back to me. I'm just heading into work now, since I anchor the evening news. I want you to know who this guy is. He anchors the Channel 7 evening news. This is who wants to hear from me. You guys want me to say the best stuff I can? Please. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just letting you know. These people want to talk to me, and he's not the first one. Now, why they picked the big old fat guy, I don't know, but I did pretty vocal about stuff. So anyhow, thanks for getting back to me. I'm heading into work now. And I totally understand your predicament. No problem. Thanks for the other contacts. Hopefully we can do a story in the near future with you. And I said, sounds good, Mike. Were you able to touch base with either of these young ladies today? See, I get to call them young ladies because it's about everybody in here. And I said, we have a meeting with the Howell Township Planning Commission tonight at 6:30 to discuss the zoning ordinances they want to put in place. And we are not in favor of some of the changes they made based on what we had to review so far. That's not blaming you guys for anything. You understand that, right? We're hearing that things are being changed. We're hearing that, again, back to the rezoning. And I was like, I'm hearing stuff, and this is the worst part about it, because when you start doing this much research, you start seeing things, and you pull these things in because it's a part of the big picture. And the big picture that I had was in one spot, it said that they could not do this, go back for the rezoning for a year. And then in another one, somebody said, no, they can go in next week. Okay, so it's very important, like we did tonight, that we clarify this stuff. Because right now, is it a week? Is it a year? If it's a year, then we can go back to putting a referendum in there and go for the whole thing a year from now and vote on all this stuff and get that taken care of. A year from now, we can be voting for 2026 elections and get the whole state under a referendum. It's a lot. All I need is 233,000 signatures to get this on the state. That's it.
That'd be easy.
Are you kidding? They want me to go back on 3 different TV shows. So anyhow, when I had said this, part of the thing that I said was, tomorrow night we have a meeting with the Livingston County Planning Commission. These people know everything that's going to be happening, folks. Anything I say here, you've got to make sure you correct me, because they're asking me what I know, and I'm trying to do the research. Not as good as these folks over here, but at the same time, when people are asking me questions, I need to get the straight skin. I've talked to Jonathan a couple times. I would like to speak with each of you. Not because I think I'm not this great person. These people, for whatever reason, are coming to me. And I said, so anyhow, let's go back to this one.
Chuck, land the plane. Land the
We're coming in.
Here we go.
He wanted me to tell him about the plans coming up for the master plan. And my statement to him was this. It's 220 pages long. And I, along with many others, have not had a chance to review the whole thing yet. It's a wonderful life, my friend. To which he responded, I haven't got a chance to talk to Kristen or Lauren yet. Says, and then we're gonna have to ask. Will you share her contact with me? And I said, no, I have to ask her. She'll share it with you if she wants to.
I just emailed him, don't worry.
All right. All right. That's where I want you to be. These people are great. The Channel 7 News knows it. Why the hell did you come to me? I don't know.
Okay, if that concludes our call to the public. Thank you, again, thank you for your input. I love seeing this room full. I kind of wish that clock was about an hour earlier, but then I don't. Because it's very encouraging to see the input and the participation. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been here, and there's applicants and maybe somebody from WHMI who sleeps through it. That's not true, but.
I have one statement to make.
Sure, sir.
Our master plan doesn't coincide with the county's why that was specifically carved out. He told me that development's gonna happen down there no matter what we want, pretty much. I asked him why wasn't the property between Emmons Road and the freeway where the rail tracks and behind the outlet mall aren't slated for staying agricultural in that future development. And he told me there's no access to that property, which is BS. So I'm just wondering if the township, planning commission can get a hold of somebody at the county level and tell them that we don't want that carved out, cause that'll give anybody a quiver, an arrow in their quiver to rezone that property when they pull up the county master plan and say the county wants it. So,
Yeah,
I just, and
Well, they took the whole
he's quite
structure right
aware
over.
that it's zoned agricultural, and he was pretty flippant with me, he said, if the residents wanna buy the property, then they should shell out the money to buy it.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, well, that's a pretty flippant comment to me.
I say we create a public land trust
So,
and do that.
that's,
I'm already working on it.
taking for what it's worth, but I'm just, I'd like, you know, if the township board can get involved with the county's master plan and just submit ours and tell them we wanna stick with that.
That's what the meeting's
But
about.
on our business.
Yeah, that's a good question is,
So it's
What if
county
there's a
master plan's
conflict between
advisory to us, correct?
I mean, yes.
It's advisory to
It
us.
doesn't.
It's the township
it doesn't
master
affect
plan
our
that
master
counts.
plan.
okay,
But my
that's,
concern is that that's gonna be an arrow in their quiver when they can pull that out and say, well, this is what the county wants, and they're
You don't
behind
have a
us.
choice.
And I don't think that,
I don't think the county supersedes the township.
so.
But I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
So we should all be providing feedback on that during the.
Right, and I
January
did.
26th deadline.
Right.
Yeah, January 26th. And tomorrow is the Livingston County Planning Commission meeting, so
Yeah, they
perhaps
took,
a good time to go and provide.
From Howell all the way to Fowlerville.
Let's load up their room.
It said highly
Oh, no, it's
developed or highly,
secondary development
zone Yeah.
or something.
I was surprised when I saw that. So,
yes, we are.
which we all know what's gonna happen.
Commissioners, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion from Mr. Bo. Second from Mr. from Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
It's called a night.